Spider-Verse. Finally, after the long journey we've been on, going through almost, not everyone, but almost every other interpretation of Spider-Man that's out there. I probably should have done something with like Anya Corazon, one of the Spider people, or even like Lady Spider or Assassin Spider-Man, something like that. But we covered quite a bit to get to this point. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl, where you can find my previous Spider-Man comic related comic book reviews, as well as the movies and TV shows as well. Except for like Ultimate Spider-Man, but I covered 616 Spider-Man, at least a couple of those that's up on the channel already. I covered Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, 2099 Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl, Spider-Ham, Spider-Man 1602. I think that's all of them. I might be missing one, but I covered Spider-Gwen as well. So I cover like a plethora of different Spider-Man related content, and after this I'm gonna take like a long deserved break away from Spider-Man for a while. Like, I love Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, but after this it's like next time I probably cover anything Spider-Man related in terms of comic books won't be until next year. But after this I'll begin to a lot of X-Men related stuff, so look forward to that in the coming days. Also, please follow me in the links in the description below, like my YouTube channel, my Twitch, Twitter. Check out also my Patreon, patreon.com/talkativecarl, where you can go there, sign up for the Patreon. First members get requests made where I'll make videos in regards of certain reviews that you want me to do with like TV show, movies, just general topics, comics. Also, we're fairly close to our goal, to the 400 subscriber marker, where once we reach that, if we get more subscribers on the channel, I will be doing a Hot Ones challenge video in celebration. I'll gather 10 questions from you guys via YouTube or Twitter, and I will answer them while trying out each of the 10 hot sauces from the Hot Ones show. Anyway, and also this Saturday I will be doing like a 6-hour stream to count down to my birthday, which will be on the 23rd. So hopefully I'll see you guys there while just playing some multiplayer games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, Overwatch 2, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. And you can all wish me a nice little happy birthday, because next week I'm not like a big break, but the stream is gonna be a little sparse because I just want to like try to take at least a little bit of a break from streaming for a hot minute, because I'll also be taking a brief break from work at the same time. I just want to kind of get my bearings a bit before I get to work on all the X-Men related content that I'll be doing reviews for, the comics, the TV shows, and the movies. So anyway, Spider-Verse. So if you recall my one of my 616 Peter Parker Spider-Man stories is when he was first introduced to Ezekiel, who also was big by, but not necessarily by a scientific way of being bit by a spider, but more of a mystical way, but never became a actual full-fledged superhero because Peter pretty much just got the jump on that anyway. So he just kept on just using his powers to build up his business. But he was already aware of these interdimensional vampires known as the Inheritors, where they travel from universe to universe to kill spider totems, people who took up mantles of Spider-Man in any variation of the sort. And there, as I went through the story, when Peter first met Morlun for the first time, who pretty much beat him like up and down New York City, I equate him to, like, at least the Inheritors in general, I equate them to something like Doomsday to Superman. They're like the most devastating, most lethal villains in Spider-Man's Rose Gallery that I like. Wow, these guys are like, after this, they, you know, Marvel people in the department really, they tried to make, they keep bringing back, you know, Spider-Verse and keep running that concept to the freaking ground. It just wrapped up like a third one or something like that, and it wasn't very good. And they tried to use Morlun to be like a, you know, like a uneasy alliance, I guess, a bigger threat. This Wasp lady, not the Wasp, but like some Wasp creature that's like an ancient totem that's jealous of the totem that created the spider people in general, blah blah blah. It's stupid. It's terrible. They can't really do nothing much more with the Inheritors after that. And I suspect, because Across the Spider-Verse is going to be a two-parter. Part one will be dealing with like the Spot as like the kind of like an antagonist supposedly, but in the trailer you'll see like the Master Weaver of the Spider-Verse in the background, which leads me to believe that part two will introduce the Inheritors. Since you're doing Spider-Verse, it makes sense that why wouldn't you not bring the biggest threat to Spider-Man and his amazing friends, if you pardon the pun, to be like the overall threat to all of them, to like, because this is part of, I won't say graphic, but this gets intense. I use that word a lot as I'm streaming video games or whatnot, but it does get intense. There's a lot of different Spider people that end up dying through this adventure. So, this is long after Morlun lost the fight against Peter Parker. Of course, we assumed he was dead because the Inheritors has a weakness to radiation, and you know, just high amounts of it at the very least. And that's how Peter ended up beating Morlun. And he tries to absorb the life force of Peter Parker, but he pumped himself so much with radiation because he used science to beat this guy who thinks everything's about mystical means, and so that poisoned him and ended up killing him. But as we later see, that the Inheritors found a way to clone themselves, so anytime, if in the event that one of them died, they can easily come back, kind of like with current day X-Men, where they have like a mechanism to always revive with, you know, have like a mutant revive with their most recent memory intact, kind of situation. It's the same principle, except like the Inheritors kind of did it before the X-Men. So ever since that situation, if you're reading through this event, Morlun is making sure he saved 616 last, because after his most embarrassing defeat at the hands of Peter Parker, he is essentially afraid to go into that universe. He doesn't want to step foot in there because that loss really got to him. It was devastating blow to part of his ego or something like that. So he just decided to go to other universes and absorb. So here he goes to 1602's Spider-Man universe, and while he's doing this play, you know, this Peter Parker tries to stop him, but you know, he's no match for him. This is, you know, because Moonlight is, the Inheritors are inherently stronger, especially after they absorb from a totem. They just got, like I said, they're like not on the same level as Doomsday, but they're pretty freaking strong. It's like after like my Superior Spider-Man spoiler review that I did as well. Another one I forgot to mention. At the end, it has like an epilogue leading into this massive event where it took like at least 8 different Spider people to just neutralize one of these guys. And you know, Spider-Man and his feats and strength and all this stuff kind of correlates with all these other various Spider people. Sure, they got their own little gimmicks, but essentially the same. So it takes 8 Peter Parkers to neutralize one of these guys. And this is without trying to get them to absorb, large amounts of radiation just to weaken them. So 1602 Spider-Man tries to fight him, but he just gets backhanded so significantly and impaled on a support beam, and right in front of his Mary Jane and her family, and then he gets absorbed. And it's like, man, it's like after you reading like his adventures, it feels so bad for him. It's never really fully explained after the events of this adventure, these Spider people who happen to die end up coming back in some way. Because I don't think so. From my knowledge, I could be wrong, but from my knowledge, I don't think they ever, there's no way they revive after the events have been set up. Of course, after the events, this event was done, the Master Weaver, who we'll meet in a second, says like, in time things will repair, kind of situation from the damage that the Inheritors has done. But that's not really clear whether or not all the dead Spider people will come back. Anyway, this also coincides with what happened in Superior Spider-Man, where he got absorbed in this time vortex during the events when like 2099 went to the present day to try to stop this time flux that threatened 2099 and the present day 616 universe. And Doc Ock Peter Parker, because this is around the time when Doc Ock took over Peter Parker's body, gets sent through time. And of course, to everybody else, he was gone for just 8 hours. During those 8 hours, like I said, I will get back into it once I went through the Superior Spider-Man arc. I told you once we get to Spider-Verse, we'll continue on. So here it is. For 8 hours, he's just been on this, like, it felt like almost days, seemingly, but it's hard to tell because they travel from multiverse to multiverse. So it's like, what is time anymore at this certain point? Because like if you watch my spoiler review on the comic book mini event of Spider-Man, where 616 Peter Parker meets Ultimate Universe Miles Morales for the first time, when it was nighttime in the 616 universe and he went into the Ultimate Universe, it was daytime there. So time can easily be like all over the place in a different universe. I mean, what's evening here could easily be dawn in a different universe. So now Doc Ock Peter, let's call him Doc Ock Spider-Man, was sent to the future of 2099. So he bumps into Miguel O'Hara's younger brother, who, and I apologize, I didn't cover the mini comic event where 616 Peter Parker met 2099 Spider-Man. So Miguel's brother Ari and Miguel himself already am familiar with Peter Parker, and of course they're not privy to until later that Doc Ock took over his body in this point in time before he sees control again. So Gabriel, Miguel's younger brother, took Doc Ock Spider-Man to Miguel's apartment, and he utilizes 299 tech to try to go back to his current, to the present day. So you see him, like, you know, briefly fight Venture and stealing from all these different corporations like Alchemax and everything like that, and tries to build his own time machine. He even built like a risk communicator, and kind of like, you know, Miguel's Lila hologram Siri type of you know, risk communicator. He built something like that, but instead of looking like Marilyn Monroe, the hologram looks like Anna Marie, because it's around the time he's completely in love with Anna Marie, and she's always on his mind. So she's pretty much like his Alfred right now. So upon building all this, you know, machine, even though he called it crude, like tech of the future, because Doc Ock is still an arrogant butthole, he built this time machine. But I mean, like, as I stated during my review on Superior Spider-Man, there are moments where, like, yeah, he does some stuff that is pretty smart that Peter never really considered for some reason. Like he invented this piece of tech on his on the wrist device, where it's like a snapback in case something goes wrong and he's transported not to his present day but somewhere else, which he does. He's able to snap back to 2099 so he can try to recalibrate anything he needs to, so he can get to the proper timeline. When he travels, he ends up going to a different universe altogether. And I know some people might be confused, like, oh, he built a time machine, so why would he be traveling the multiverse? But like I said, it's kind of crude technology he was building up on the fly. He just really needed to get back. So he ended up going to a different multiverse, where this universe, Peter Parker actually joined the Fantastic Four. And if you're not familiar, one of Peter Parker's first adventures, or I guess is one of his original team-ups in history, is when he tried to join the Fantastic Four, because he thought, like, oh, they got, like, you know, probably benefits and gets, like, paid, so he can be able to, like, you know, help pay, you know, Aunt May's bills and stuff like that. Because he then realized that, you know, they don't get, like, steady paychecks. They, you know, they get, like, endorsements because of Johnny Storm, and then, you know, reads patents from his inventions. That's how they're able to make a living. They don't really get technically paychecks. But you also get to see Peter Parker really strut his stuff, where you actually get to take on the Fantastic Four and technically win. Because, like, I don't know if it was Captain America or somebody from the Avengers once said a long time ago, where it's like, if Spider-Man actually went really serious, aside from Hulk and Thor, he can take down the Avengers if he really wanted to. Because if you get how smart he is, fast, agile. I mean, of course, he did a lot of fast and agile characters, but no, his power is insane with used to his fullest capabilities. He just usually hold back because he will end up killing somebody. So in this universe, unlike how the story typically went, because I think like most of these universes we go to, it's like what if stuff sometimes, not everyone. This is like a what if, you know, things went differently and he actually joined the Fantastic Four and making it a Fantastic Five, where in like the main timeline they didn't bring him on to the team. Here he did. And Doc Ock Spider-Man finds this Peter Parker's body, and it has these 2 puncture wounds in his chest. He's dead along with the other Fantastic Four. So he doesn't know what the heck is going on. It was like you know, it's like a big calamity going on. All the members are completely dead. So he decides to make another jump, and he ends up going to 2 other universes where I'm not sure about one of them, but the other seems like the what if story where the Civil War still continued and never stopped, and he's, you know, Peter was still a part of Team Iron Man. And both of these different Spider-Man are dead, but not only that, have the same puncture wounds. And they all have been leaving this particular trace, like somebody has been traveling through the multiverse and leaving, like, you know, trace bits of like particles around before they eventually dissipate. But, you know, Doc Ock, you know, picks up on that. So now he's going through this kind of investigation, because like this is way too coincidental. Come across 3, because 3 is a pattern at a certain point. Comes across 3 dead Peter Parkers with the same wounds inflicted on them. Now he's, you know, very concerned. So now he's, you know, trying to jump to another universe just to, you know, see what's going on, because if this kind of thing's continuing, eventually it might lead to him. And he wants to get the jump on that instead of waiting for some kind of surprise attack. He ends up going to Spider-Man India, another Spider-Man comic book I did review, which is up on the channel as well. Spider-Man India. And he saves Spider-Man India from Karn, one of the inheritors, from being killed while he's trying to save people from a collapsing building. And so Doc Ock tells this Spider-Man, Abakar, like, yo, if you stay here, you're gonna die. Come with me. Don't worry about anybody else. This guy seems to be only after Spider-Man, so they're gonna be okay. Just follow me if you want to live. Come with me if you want to live. So he ends up going to another universe. He's starting to make some kind of recruitment as much as he can in different universes as he goes to. Here, he goes to a universe where the grief of of Gwen Stacy's death affected Peter in a different way than we normally remember, where our Peter Parker kind of rose above it and took it as a lesson to try to do better and be careful when it comes to saving people, because because after Gwen's death, it's like he makes sure from that point on where he, you know, probably aims his web line and makes sure people go limp or whatever like that, just to make sure he doesn't repeat that same mistake. So here he took the lesson a different way, where it's like, okay, you know, it's kind of like he turns to Assassin Spider-Man, where he works with Wolverine to train, and he kills people. He's, you know, not necessarily the Punisher, but he, you know, learns that, you know, sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty in order to prevent criminals like that from continuing doing harm. So you gotta take them out, be done with it, so they won't ever dare to hurt anybody else again. So he recruits them, and some time went on, and after Karn's trying to take on the cyborg Spider-Man, here comes all these other Spider-Man that he's been recruiting so far, where you got, you know, Cyber Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Man India, Six Armed Spider-Man, Spider-Man Assassin, Spider-Girl, what's her name? The daughter of Clinton Barton, I think. Her name is Barton, and then Spider Monkey. And they take on Karn, but it's futile because Karn is way too strong. They think they can actually neutralize him with like all this fancy tech that he got from 2099 and be able to effectively, you know, bring this person down. However, everything gets disrupted when Karn's fellow inheritor family, you know, these twins, show up and start wreaking havoc. Or at least not wreaking havoc, I say, like, you know, disrupt the advantage that they had. So they eventually have to jump to their safe zone in 2099, and Doc Ock invented this kind of device where he kind of masked their scent because he realized they've been tracking each one of these Spider-Man so they always know where they are. If you watch my review of Spider-Man, I forgot what the proper title is, but it was when he meet as months ago, but when he meets Morlun for the first time, he all these inheritors have to do is just touch when if they end up tracking down a spider person. Once they touch them, they're like bloodhounds. They're able to track them no matter where they go in the world or in the universe or multiverse. They'll be able to track them. So he managed to mask that. But if you want to know a little bit more about Karn, yes, he's like the runt of the litter of the inheritors, where Loom World, Earth 001, where they pretty much conquered, and they want to use the Master Weaver to force him to open doorways to other multiverses so they can hunt and eliminate different spiders for sustenance. Of course, Karn is like the black sheep. He just wants to explore. He doesn't like doing any of this, but he wants to appease his family after the embarrassment he caused them by allowing the Master Weaver to kill their mother and the husband of Solas, their father, the wife of Solas, the father. So he has to wear this diving suit helmet in like disgrace, and so he's forever banished from Loom World, and he's forever he essentially is forbidden to come back until he actually is called upon by the father, like he actually if he actually ever forgives him. So he's doomed to wander the multiverse, just killing different spider people, and hoping that enough had satiated their father's bloodlust. So Morlun goes to another universe where a different variant of Miguel O'Hara is a part of the Avengers, and Morlun attacks them, ends up neutralizing the male Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel, and ends up killing Miguel O'Hara here. And Wolverine's wondering, like, you think this guy ever gonna come back? And Cap's like, I hate to say it, but I hope not, because he quickly handled all of them. And these are four, how all four of these guys by themselves are considerable adversaries to a lot of bad guys. But a full power inheritor is able to take on Wolverine, Captain America, Miguel O'Hara, and Captain Marvel all by himself, speaks a lot to these guys' power, especially after they absorb like a spider totem to increase their strength. So we go to another variant of Miguel O'Hara. Here he actually is with Mary Jane Watson. Don't know the story here if they're in the past or in the future, but they're together, and he is able to pick up on, just like Ezekiel has in 616, about the looming threat that's coming. And so he's trying to go to another Earth to recruit spider people and warn them about what's coming. Unfortunately, right as he's opening the doorway to 616, because at the same time, while the previous Miguel O'Hara died, 616 Miguel O'Hara is like, he's feeling it somehow, where it's like along the web of life. It's like every time one of them dies, like a variant of them dies, they feeling it. It's like it's traveling across the multiverse. He doesn't know what the heck it is until he sees it for himself, as his variant is getting slaughtered in front of him through our doorway. And like I said before, Morlun just refused to step through to get at 616 Miguel O'Hara, because after defeat of Peter Parker by the hands of Peter Parker, he doesn't want to go there yet. He's dodging it, and of course he won't admit it. And of course Miguel is ready to fight, but Morlun just dips out. And if you're curious to know what's going on with our Peter Parker, after the events of Superior Spider-Man, he reclaimed his body, and discovered Silk. And this is also after like Original Sin, another Marvel event where the white Caucasian Nick Fury steals the Eye of the Watcher, and it was something I can't remember the main story why he's doing all this stuff, but he revealed like certain dirty secrets to like a lot of the Marvel characters, and causing like Thor to be unworthy, leading to unworthy Thor, then like bringing up to Daredevil that his mother's actually alive, and she's been that nun that goes to the same church he always go to confess, and she's been hiding out there and never told you who she is, at least to that kind of story. So for Peter Parker, there is another Spider Person, and it's Cindy Moon Silk, which is another comic book that I covered, which you can check out on the channel because it's all coming back to me now. And of course Anna Maria, of course, because the next Spider-Man thing I wanted to cover is like the adventure during the Parker Industry story that I want to do next year, along with Spider-Man event Clone Conspiracy. And during the course of that, Anna Maria is kind of like not in her feelings, but she thought she fell in love with Peter Parker, but she ended up falling in love with Doc Ock, where she kind of feels like her stomach turns because she knows the story about Doc Ock's history and everything like that. So all that is like those feelings kind of out the window. But here, after discovering Cindy Moon, she's kind of trying to acclimate into the present day, because Cindy Moon was on the same field trip that the spider bit Peter Parker, but that also went and bit Cindy Moon that was in the crowd. But Ezekiel ended up finding her before he ended up finding after losing Peter Parker, he finds Cindy Moon, puts her in a bunker, and that's where she stayed since then. So time went by over the years. She survived on tons of food that was in storage, and all this stuff that keep her entertained and taken care of the whole time, until Peter Parker released her and now she's trying to acclimate into the modern day, kind of like the Captain America effect. But since they've both been bitten by the same spider, their attraction to each other, you know, it's like this enhanced pheromones that can help but force them to just mate. They can't help each other, even though they don't have like anything in common or anything like that. They just have to bang. It's like it's like, you know, animal instinct, you know, at this point. And of course, Anna Maria has to like kind of squirt bottle them like they're cats just to keep them from like, you know, getting off each other. So they trying to keep themselves at a distance, and Cindy decides to go out on her own throughout the city to try to, you know, do something for herself and see, you know, what the city has to offer without having some kind of babysitter. You're gonna see a lot of that with Cindy Moon throughout this adventure. At the same time, Mulan is killing more, you know, different variants of Spider-Man. Here, if you remember the 70s Spider-Man TV show, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, where he's teamed up with, he living in an apartment with Iceman and Firestar. I remember watching reruns on that old TV show. He goes to that universe and kills all three of them. Of course, he was mainly after Peter Parker, but as soon as anybody gets in the way, he doesn't hesitate to like just murder them. So like, three of these guys, these three are powerhouses in their own right. You know, like Iceman, Firestar. That's like, you know, and Spider-Man working together. It's like they were nothing. He beat them and killed them. So, you know, they're dead. While at the same time, because there's a handful of different Spider people who caught on to what's been going on through the multiverse, where this the Inheritors. Here we got, you know, Braddock, Spider-Man UK. Of course, there's like these like, you know, Captain Britain Corps, where these different multiversal Captain Britons all throughout the multiverse comes together and make kind of like the Green Lantern Corps, but for like Captain Britain, who's like a different like a British superhero. It's like kind of like Captain America, but for Britain, you know, in a sense. I'm never not too familiar with Captain Britain like that, but he should be like, you know, somewhere on that kind of level like Captain America. Well, it might be some added abilities here and there, but Spider-Man UK is part of this team, and of course he's been monitoring the situation, but here's the thing: he's not getting the support he needs from his leaders, because they're dealing with the Incursions, which is like the multiversal threat throughout the Marvel universe or multiverse, where different universes collide within on each other and only one will survive. That's how we lost the Ultimate Universe. And of course, and because if you're wondering why, like, you know, all these different Spider-Man are getting murdered in these different universes, where are the other, like, you know, the Marvel characters and blah blah blah? Like, a lot of them are dealing with this Incursion stuff. And that's how, like, the leaders are treated, you know, Braddock right now. It's like, you know, like their main leader lady, it's like telling like, we're dealing with the Incursions, you're bothering me about spider totems? And of course, there's another lady, her ward is like, you know, gives him like a wrist device so he can travel into the multiverse, but he has to do it solo. But she doesn't want to dismiss his concerns, because this is affecting him. And it's essentially like the Terminators, you know, like a handful of Terminators are specifically tracking down all these different John Connors, and it's a considerable threat. But considering it's not affecting them in a larger sense, they're not like considering, the leader lady is not considering that at all. So Braddock is now going to the multiverse and is trying to find different Spider people so he can make gather some team together. During this, we'll go back to Peter Parker, our Peter Parker, where he's teaming up with Miss Marvel. And this is not too long after she acquired her Inhuman powers. Inhuman, not mutant. Inhuman powers. And so she's still new to the game. And she's fighting this wannabe Captain Marvel person who happens to have the name Minerva, kind of like Dr. Minerva, the cheetah from DC. I kind of found that wild. And they're taking down this beast. And, you know, Spider-Man, I like this moment because Spider-Man noticed that she kind of freezing up a little bit. And he's like, okay, she's kind of like, she's just stuck there. She's stunned. She's in shock. Okay, hey kid, because she's a total fangirl. Hey kid, do you remember the Fastball special? Like, oh my god, yes, I know. If you get that same energy from, like, you know, I forgot the girl's name from the Miss Marvel TV show, apply that same energy to the comic book. Well, at least the comic book kind of applied the same energy to the live action version, but it's just like that same spunky energy. It's like that, like, you know, like, oh my god, Spider-Man, you're my hero. It's like, I love you, like, you know, like, you're amazing. And of course, they saved this Inhuman baby from this bad guy, and she she's wanting to know, like, you know, it's like, you know, did she do a great job? And she wanted, you know, was like, you know, how I do. And Spider-Man, in the coolest fashion, you know, like, says, like, you know, you remind me of like you know, one young whippersnapper with spider powers back in the day. So far, you're doing a good job, kid. And, you know, it's like, you know, he gives her some words of encouragement that he kind of wish he had when he was her age. And I kind of like this one. And it gives her such a pep as she's, you know, leaving, because she's not part of this, but it's nice to see, like, you know, Spider-Man doing his friendly neighborhood thing, and, you know, having like a first team up with Miss Marvel. This is around the time where she's like really starting out. This is way back 2015, something like that. 2014, 2015. This is around the time when the Inhumans was trying to be like the X-Men, and it just really was not working because Fox had the property and they can't do nothing about it. It's like your comics, like, what you care about what the movie and TV shows are doing. You're the comics. They can have the, you know, shared universe. Inhumans can mingle with the X-Men, and they try to make, you know, the Inhumans and X-Men bitter rivals or something, like, you know, like like the Hackfields and McCoys, where it's like, you know, they can't intermingle at all, even though they're all superheroes in some shape or form. Because the Terrigen Mist is like poison to a mutant kind of situation. There's a whole thing. It was really stupid, and last time I remember. So Spider-Man eventually meets up with, like, you know, Spider UK and other different Spider people. But before we get to that, we travel to the universe where Peter Parker and MJ have like a daughter and a son, Mayday and Benji, and Damiels, one of the inheritors, goes there and tries to feed off of both Mayday, Benji, and Peter. And of course, Peter, despite only having one leg and he's a little older, he's trying to fight him off to save his family. Of course, it was futile. He ends up dying. MJ gets injured, but she ultimately survives. You know, you'll see her at the tail end of the event. And of course, Mayday is instructed to take Benji and run while their house is getting burned to the ground. And Mayday is so distraught. She thinks she lost both her parents, but it's just the father. And it's right when other spider people show up in the portal and pull them both in. And of course, Mayday is vowing revenge on what Damiels has done. So we got Mayday in the fray now. And so Spider UK 2099, you know, Corazon and Mayday all meet up with 616 Peter Parker to tell him what's going down. And Peter's stunned, like, more London's back? I thought I beat him. Like, no, there's more. He's not only he's back, he has a whole family. It's like a handful of people or inheritors going to universe to slaughter spider people and to steal their essence to grow in strength. So we gotta find all these different Spider-Man before they end up getting murdered, because most of them don't know what's going to happen or what's coming. And so they also end up getting Karn from 616, because at this time he was leading the New Warriors. They get badly beaten, and Karn's about to get absorbed until a different universe, Ezekiel, who took up the mantle of Spider-Man in his universe, Bruce Banner took up the mantle of Spider-Man. He ended up dying in this mission trying to save Karn. And of course, we see Spider-Gwen show up. So they all converge in this quote-unquote safe zone where we meet Captain Universe Spider-Man, where in like a what-if story where, because there was a time when this Captain Universe power goes from, you know, noble heroes to give them, like, you know, the one of the most omnipotent, or at least the most broken powers in the cosmos. And there's only a few characters actually had the Captain Universe abilities. Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, and Eddie Brock is the only three that I can remember actually having the Captain Universe abilities. Very rarely they keep it. It is the only time where a character actually kept the Captain Universe abilities, but this was like a what-if story. And in that story, from what I remember, because I'm not a big what-if person, I don't care for the Marvel what-if stories a lot of the time. A lot of the time they end them like on a sour note, and I don't care for that. He actually kept the powers, and essentially his universe is kind of like a utopia because he's essentially a god. So as long as he stays in this universe, he has all the power. Anything comes in here, he can easily neutralize like that. So all these different Spider people that they accumulated so far, including 616 Jessica Drew, Spider-Punk, who's like another character I want to do like because I tried reading some comic of his last year. You know, I went through a few issues. I never really completed it because the artwork is like, you'll see it in a little bit because I have like a little short slide for that, but it's extremely jaggedy. And of course, that universe is Robbie Robinson, or no, not Hobby Robinson. It's supposed to be like one of the original Prowlers, not Miles's uncle. One of the original Prowlers that took up the mantle of Spider-Man, and in that universe, punk rock kind of ruled the world. And he's like rebelling against the system kind of attitude kind of way. So anyway, they all gathered together in order to try to formulate a plan in order to have to deal with these inheritors and try to stop them from good. Meanwhile, the inheritors are just having like a feast. They literally have different multiversal spider people on platters. This is like, when I saw this, it like made my skin crawl. It's like, these most of them are not like technically like human, but by and large they're all human in some capacity. And it's like you have like actual sentient beings on platters. They don't see them nothing more as food to them. And that's what, like, I doubt they'll see that if they have. I got a gut feeling they're gonna have the inheritors in Across the Spider-Verse Part 2, and I'm not sure how far they will lean into something like this, where you see half dead spider folk on platters about to be devoured by vampires. So you got like a Spider-Man variant that actually is part vampire himself, but like bat, like man bat kind of situation. And you got uh like one that is like more spider than man kind of situation. And I don't know about the third one. I assumed it was that Bruce Banner Spider-Man, but it might be somebody else. But either way, they all just like setting a plan on going after the Scion, the Bride, and the Other. If you don't know who these three are, the Bride is Cindy Moon, the Scion is Benji Parker, and the Other is Karn. Why them? Because these are the types of, this is prophecy. Because the whole goal is to eradicate all these multiversal spider people, because there's a prophecy that in the end the spider folk will eventually wipe out the inheritors. To prevent this, Solus dictated that they're only allowed, of course they can absorb other animal totems, like, I think there was like I've been dying to try to find that comic because I want to read that, where one of the inheritors, I think Moreline, actually try to go after one of the, I'm not sure it's 616 Black Panther or at least a different variant of Black Panther. So any animal totem they can easily absorb. There's one issue where one of the inheritors goes to a universe where it's not like the Toon World where Spider-Ham comes from, where they're all anthropomorphic type of characters. These are like, if it's 616 universe, but they're all animals, then they can have a field day in which one of them does, and I think it was Damios, just starts absorbing all these different superheroes of the animal variants, like just having a field day with everybody because they all are animals in some variant some sort. So they're trying to prevent their own demise by going after Cindy Moon the Bride, who is type of variant of a spider person who gets their powers by happenstance or luck or magic, while Benji is a Scion that represents spider folk that are born into their powers. And then Karn represents the Other, who represents spider people who get their powers via science or technology or something like that. And once you kill all three in this specific ritual, along with with the Master Reaver weaving all this stuff to effectively erase these types of spider people throughout the entire multiverse, so that way you can avoid their own demise by these specific groups. So that is the overall master plan. So now we're getting on to these solo stories where like we're taking like a break in between here, where there's a few slides that didn't pop up for some reason, so bear with me here. There's a moment where they meet up with Spire UK and his group, Peter Parker and his group, and then Doc Ock Spider-Man and his group. They all come together, but Doc Ock Spider-Man, who does not know that current day Peter Parker is the future, where he took over control back his body, but Peter managed to convince him that he is the past Peter Parker, so that way he can avoid any chance of Doc Ock trying to kill him to ensure that he doesn't take control or essentially start a paradox or something like that. But it wouldn't have mattered to Doc Ock. So he allows 616 Peter Parker to be the leader. And so it starts off with different stories with different Spider people. Lady Spider, 616 Spider-Man, and Miguel O'Hara leading their group in order to do an autopsy on Morlun, or no, Damios, who went and attacked Karn, but Karn, being one of the three, had this kind of special oomph to them where they're able to actually cause some significant damage. He kind of briefly spiders out, creating these giant spikes, and kills Damios. And they take, these three take his body to 2099 to try to run an autopsy. However, Morlun shows up because Damios can easily regenerate, which he does, and ends up killing alternate Ezekiel. And of course, in his dying breath, warns Peter about the three specific spider folk from the prophecy. So while trying to run an autopsy, Morlun shows up trying to, kill them and prevent anything they're learning from the body. 616 Spider-Man gets killed in action, while Miguel and Lady Spider run the autopsy. And now, of course, the public eye, because he's back in his future or his present day, he goes, because the public eye always watching. He knows Tyler Stone is watching, and he's going over one of the public eye's little camera thing on his vest, and it's like, look, Tyler, I should beat the mess out of you for trapping me in the past, but none of that matters right now. There's something bigger than the both of us right now. I need you to take me to level C and gate blah blah blah. Take me there. You know what I'm talking about. If you do as I say, allow me access to that, I will owe you a favor. And of course, Tyler lets him have it. So he takes Morlun and traps him in this stasis field. And of course, it doesn't last too long, because even though it's managed to hold him, in order for him to actually break out, he actually had to kill himself in the process. And so he can regenerate through his clone body and then come back to try to come at them again. But thankfully, because if you watch my review on Spider-Man 2099, he mentions to Lady Spider about, like, hey, I met some pretty dope people along my adventures as Spider-Man, and I can easily call them up, which he does. Well, at least just one of them managed to show up, which is 2099 Punisher. And even though he wouldn't be any match for Morlun, all his guns and future tech, he managed to, at the very least, slow him down to give Lady Spider and Miguel the chance to book it to another universe. And I like this moment. I love moments like this where these heroes, not just with Spider-Man, but any hero that are facing devastating odds, call your friends. You have very powerful friends. At the very least, stall the bad guy long enough for you to come up with a plan to, deal with these guys. So he managed to, make Morlun fall through the series of floors into old New York. And this version of Punisher, not Frank Castle, this is like a different guy who took up the mantle. Eventually I will do like a 2099 Punisher type of spoiler review, probably next year. And he rails into Miguel. It's like, hey, he's gonna be falling right down to old New York. I'll buy you some time, so if you need to do anything, I suggest you do it now, because that won't hold him, man. But I love this moment. It's one of my favorite moments. I love when, like, even if the friend doesn't stop the bad guy in its entirety, the fact that he managed to just be conscientious and know he has friends to back him up, speaks volumes, and I love stories like this. So while Miguel and Lady Spider zip away, they come back to the safe haven where, after the inheritors show up along with their dad to retrieve the Scion, which they do, they end up, because Solus taking on Captain Universe Peter Parker ends up defeating Captain Universe Peter Parker, because even though he's all powerful in this universe, he is still powered by a life force, like this pure life force, ultimate pure life force, and he's absorbing that and kills Captain Universe Peter Parker and a few others. And this devastates both of them. They end up going to, they end up seeing, they go into up to this giant Voltron thing called Leopardtron, or Leopardtron. And if you want to know where this thing comes from, if you're not familiar with Japanese Spider-Man from the 70s TV show, where he actually piloted, kind of like Power Rangers or Voltron, pilot a mech, a Zord, essentially, to help fight, like, alien creatures and whatnot. He gets called in onto the fray, but of course, trying to battle Solus, it is not very effective, unfortunately. And so they end up leaving it behind. These two find it and decide to use it, because they're, techies, essentially. They bring it to Lady Spider's universe, where they, learn that, hey, these guys are weak against radiation. We need to be able to not only fix this up so it can be battle ready, but have it powered by radiation to be able to effectively take on these inheritors. And I like that. But at the same time, they kind of get sidetracked by Lady Spider's Sinister Six, because this is kind of like it's. I call her. She's called Lady Spider, but it's steampunk Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. It's kind of steampunk era, industrial age England, and you dealing with industrial age Sinister Six, including like this universe's Green Goblin. And they get sidetracked a little bit, but they end up taking them down, and uses that universe's Doc Ock, because he powers his steampunk Doc Ock arms with a radiation kind of isotope, which they use to power up the Leopardtron. And then next time you see them, they coming in the tail end of the final battle. Not completely fixed up, but fixed up enough given the technology he had to use in Lady Spider's or steampunk Spider Lady's universe, but it managed to get into working order. Now getting back to the main story. Let me just check something. Yeah, unfortunately, like there's a lot of like stuff that the slides, they don't all come together. I don't know what the heck is up, but there's like an adventure with let me see something, because I am so sorry. Yeah, because there's a lot that skipped over. They end up going to sorry I can't show you on the slide, but I'll just pull up for myself, and just to help recap, like they end up going to manga Spider-Man, another Spider-Man comic that I reviewed, which is on the channel. They end up going to the universe where Spider-Man manga is from. Recruit him, there's a moment. Oh my god, it's a great. Some moments here. They really deep dive into some Spider-Man kind of moments. Even, no matter how small it is, they go and they Morlun goes after. It's like one of those little mini kind of things at the end of the comic you're reading back in the day, where he's trying to sell some kind of product, which is like Twinkies in this case, and these little small adventures. Like Spider-Man fights off crime with Twinkies and stuff like that, and he's trying to stop Morlun with like some uh 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 uh, feast on these guy, and trying to stop crime with Twinkies. But of course Morlun ain't having that, and he kills this product selling Peter Parker. Then he goes to the Master Weaver and ends up sending him to a universe during the early sketches, black and white early sketches, like very, very old comic strips before color, of trying to kill and absorb that universe's Peter Parker. But of course, if you're reading through this event, the Master Weaver is, subtly and not very frequently rebelling against the inheritors, because he doesn't like what he's doing to the multiverse. Right, they're doing to the multiverse, where they just disrupting each world one by one. But because of how old comic books operated back in the time, it's not as fluid as comics are, since like 70s and on to present day. Things aren't operating. It's like Morlun's asking like, why it takes days for somebody to perform like the simplest of actions, and Morlun's like, I can't deal with this. I can't even act the one I want to act. So Master Weaver, get me out of here. So Master Weaver is kind of like taking this strand of this particular universe, and it's like, this is the most purest of an innocent world. I'm gonna place it aside in his own pocket reality where nobody will ever harm it, because this is part of like the more earliest incarnation of Spider-Man concepts that Stan Lee invented. But then this is one of my favorite fun ones that I kind of wish I had the slide pull up, because it's like 100 slides, and Streamlabs for some reason is not giving them all to me. Man, it's amazing I got even the chunk I have right now, because it only gave me like, when I tried before I started the stream, it only gave me half of the 100 slides that I had, so I had to like finagle a way to get as much as I got, to make sure I at least get all the way to the end, to the final slide. But there's like a panel where Morlun travels to the universe Earth 30847, which is the Marvel vs. Capcom universe, where he's going after that video game Spider-Man. So even the video game universes are like really not that safe. But he goes after Marvel vs. Capcom Spider-Man, and he actually does, there's panels where he does like Web Ball, Spider Sting, Maximum Spider, and it does not phase him. Even like, I kind of wish they had actual health bars. But then Inheritor, being acclimated to this universe, part of the video game, does his own move called the Inheritor's Fist. Boom, lays him out. Perfect. He actually got the words perfect. And you see this kid actually playing on the arcade, like he's in the arcade stores back in the day, and he's like, what the hell? And he essentially takes down MVC Spider-Man. That was so funny. And of course, like I said, I did promise I want to show you, like, you know, Robbie Robinson, not Hobby Brown. I'm sorry, Spider-Man, Spider-Punk. But it's like, I understand the is, you know, it's very grungy type of art, and it's not exactly my favorite. But that's when they end up finding Hobby Brown, Spider-Punk, and, you know, bring him in the fold. I'm curious to know, if you read Spider-Punk, let me know what you think of the art, because, like, not exactly my favorite. I don't care for the really jagginess of the world. Then they, you know, some of the spiders, like, you know, different universe, Ezekiel and Spider-Ham go to recruit um a different universe's Ben Riley, when, like, a what if story where Peter Parker actually, you know, doesn't have any his spider powers no more officially, and he gives up being Spider-Man and leads to Ben Riley so he can live a life with Mary Jane, and they recruit this version of Ben Riley. So we got a Ben Riley here. Then they go to Miles and Ultimate, the Ultimate Spider-Man from the TV show, team up to go recruit 60 Spider-Man from the 60 TV show. And I like they actually incorporate this particular artwork just like the show, but it's just when you see the look on Miles Morales to try to, you know, encapsulate what he would look like in the 60s TV show, it looks so gross looking. Like, he has, like, it ain't look like his cheek could here when he's trying to smile it like this, and it's like, God, it does not work. But I'm glad they actually they recruit this universe Peter Parker. And there's a moment when, like, Ultimate Spider-Man is worried, not like Ultimate US Spider-Man, the Ultimate TV show Spider-Man gets worried that, you know, this 60s Spider-Man might be racist considering the time period. But no, you know, Peter Parker doesn't care. He's more concerned with the fact that, like, how young this Miles Morales is. Like, you're just a teenager and you're Spider-Man? Like, how young are you? So it's like, you know, you don't have to worry about any Peter Parker being racist. And of course, there's another tie-in where, after a certain point, getting towards the end of the event, where Karn goes to the universe where Aunt May gets spider powers instead of Peter Parker and instead of Ben Parker, because there's, like, a universe where Ben Parker gets spider powers too. We'll get to that. And she becomes Spider-Man, but while Karn's about to attack her, Spider-Man India, Spider-Punk, you know, Anna Corazon and another spider variant decides, like, okay, we need, because they come to this, you know, realize that Karn isn't like the other inheritors, and they end up recruiting him after convincing him that you just want to explore different multiverses. You don't want to seek out to cause harm to other spider people, unlike your relatives. Help us defeat them, because they don't really care about you. Because how long you been doing this to appease them, and they still haven't gotten, you know, brought you back? It's been like over a century. Like, you know, like, they don't care about you. Fight for on our side, because we care. And so they end up convincing him. It took, like, a brief battle, but they ended up convincing him. They never brought in Spider-Man into the fold. They just left her there. I guess it's Aunt May, so I guess, like, you know, he don't want to cause harm to Aunt May. Then you get a story with, you know, Jessica Drew teaming up with Spider-Man Noir. 1 second here. I think you know, sorry, I am pressing different things here. Teaming up to try to because Jessica Drew is a spy, and she's trying to uh keep a low profile while they, because they're hopping in different universes to try to avoid getting avoid the inheritors. But of course, because they're spider people, they can't help but try to save people when things are going down. But they have to keep a low profile, so you have to, as Jessica Drew puts it, like stow that need to, help people. We're on like a bigger mission than some crew of thugs, messing up a village. But they can help themselves, which draw attention to the twin inheritors, and Spider-Man Noir gets injured in the process. So they save him, and they, going through a portal to his universe where he has people that they know him, and they can like keep him hidden for a while and knows how to take care of him. And of course, this is where like Jessica Drew has like a blow up on Cindy Moon, because granted, she's been in a bunker for the bulk of her life, and she's like want to help. She wants to be a hero. She wants to like do something with her powers, but she's not thinking ahead. And of course, given the fact that they're being chased by interdimensional vampires that hunts them relentlessly, Jessica is kind of blow up because she's scared, angry, and kind of exhausted a bit, because they constantly on a run. They barely have like a decent amount of respite. But Spider-Gwen, 616 Peter Parker, and Anna Corazon show up. Peter tells Jessica he has a particular mission that requires her skill set to pull off. So Anna and Spider-Gwen take over to watch Cindy Moon, because they realize eventually that she's the key. But of course, she dips off because she gets in her feelings, like, screw you, Jessica Drew, like, like who are you to tell me blah 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 blah. So she getting chased through different multiverses by these twin inheritors because she didn't decide to stick to the plan. Jessica Drew goes to Loom World Earth 001, where the inheritors pretty much conquered this particular universe, where, or at least this particular Earth, where this universe Jessica Drew didn't turn out like our Jessica Drew, where she's now like a very jaded person, and kind of like nasty to people, is self-absorbed kind of situation. She ended up bumming, our Jessica Drew ended up bumming into this universe's Submariner, who's kind of like a pirate. And on Loom World, because it's kind of like the inheritors are like the Kingpin, where it's like they're top dog, essentially. They bring in all these like a different salad bowl of different, or Chex Mix, I should say, of different universes stuff, where it's like cowboys, pirates, flying cars, all these different stuff. This is to shape the world that they're in. I say they're like Kingpin because once they're defeated, there's a power vacuum. And of course, it's a different. There's like an epilogue story with Jessica Drew where she goes to her variant. It tells her, "Is a power vacuum. You need to seize control to get things under control." They actually like you, and unlike the inheritors, they don't have to worry about getting murdered, at a drop of a hat if something occurs. Because you see people like, a lot of Spider-Man rogues are being treated like hunting dogs for the inheritors, like Hammerhead and Green Goblins and Rhino, and you got even like you'll see, later with like, well, you don't see, I got it on the slide here, it wasn't part of the one on Streamlabs for some reason, but you get even Iron Man, because they took so much control to the point where like even Tony Stark and the Human Torch are in their employ, like they're top enforcers, and any Spider hero are immediately brought in to experiment on and or feast on. And it's like Spider people are just banned or outlawed or get called upon so the Inheritors can bring them in. It is devastating what happened to this world. So any of these heroes that might have risen up are just quickly dispatched immediately, and everybody else just fell in line. And just, it's probably been a while, so they kind of just, like Johnny Storm, he just like, and even Tony Stark, just like, this is our life. And it's like the Inheritors' word as law kind of situation. So Jessica Drew, using her espionage skills to track down what the Inheritors are doing, realize that her variant is pretty much Morlun's kind of concubine, essentially. And she probably fine with it. Survivor mechanism is like, you can't knock her for, choosing to survive, because she'd rather probably be a concubine and go about her day rather than being put on a platter and feast on. Cindy Moon eventually pops up here, but because her transporter is broken, Jessica gives her working one so she can port out of here, because she eventually comes to find the Master Weaver, realizing that about the 3 sacred people, Spider people, that they, the Inheritors are looking for to complete this ritual. So the Master Weaver gave Jessica these scrolls, so these 2 scrolls in order to, she eventually transports to Spider-Man to figure out a way why the Inheritors are doing it, they're doing it, and come up with a plan to stop them. And while Cindy is trying to escape the twin Inheritors, she ended up transporting to the universe where it's like a nuclear devastation happening. Everything's like, the world is barren and it's still irradiated. And since the Inheritors are weak against radiation, they collapse immediately. And they, one of the female twins pulled the male twin back to the world of Loom World. And now they're like, okay, we're in trouble, because now she knows our weakness. And she eventually meets up with that universe's Uncle Ben, who was this universe's Spider-Man, until that universe's Green Goblin, they are called Emerald Elf instead, ends up blowing up. He tried to live up the motto of great power must also come great responsibility, but after that universe's Green Goblin found out who he was and blew up his house, killing Aunt May and that version Peter Parker, he gives up being Spider-Man and finds Ezekiel, goes in the bunker, unlike our Peter Parker, who chose not to and chose to fight back against Morlun. He wasn't around. Uncle Ben wasn't around to stop this universe's Doc Ock from holding the planet hostage with this, because 616 Doc Ock tried this before he did the whole mind switch thing. He tried to hold the world hostage during this like global mechanism to destroy like the ozone layer, to cause like planet-wide devastation. In this universe, a glitch happened, and it wasn't like a global-wide thing with like an ozone layer thing. It was like a nuclear thing, like a threat of nuclear devastation. But something happened, it went off, caused a global-wide catastrophe. And because Uncle Ben was in a bunker, he wasn't affected. He was the last person left on the planet now, until Cindy Moon shows up, and then later lets people know about this universe, and they eventually meet up with Uncle Ben. Now we go to the story of, you know, the clones, the three clones: Ben Reilly, Jessica Drew from the Ultimate Universe, and Karn from 616. And our Ben Reilly isn't from 616 universe; it's like a different universe of Ben Reilly. They go to a different part of Loom World where one of the science tech inheritor guys who set like a slice of the world for himself, where Gen X is the guy's name, where he is the science guy. He is in charge of trying to clone as many different Peter Parkers as he possibly can to try to harness the specific essence in order for them to feast on, you know, as many times as they want. And they all come out poorly. They're just grotesque monsters in one way, shape, or form. And it's kind of key, or at least, you know, important to have these clones be a part of this adventure, because they end up destroying ultimately the cloning facility that allows the inheritors to constantly resurrect if anytime they end up being killed. But because Karn is just like, you know, just like a brutal variant of Peter Parker, he just goes morphs out into like a big spider creature that ends up ultimately killing Solas, but he ends up getting killed in retaliation by Morlun. But anyway, again, ahead of myself. That's where you meet up with Tony Stark and the Human Torch while they go through this city and find this cloning facility, which Ben Reilly ends up sacrificing himself in order to make sure they destroy this facility, and the other two make it out alive to let the others know. This is like a awesome display of self-sacrifice as I ever seen one. Okay, back in business. Like I said, they all like agree that Peter Parker is the leader, and they all go on their little separate missions, which I just laid out, of which each separate small team are doing. I like this little moment. You include, it's like there's, I think there's like 2 other Spider, you know, verse events, comic book events that Marvel made. Neither one, they keep getting progressively worse. None of them compared to this first event is great. It's one of my favorite events in comics, where they, you know, just have a bunch of people doing deep cuts of Spider-Man. You got like, you know, 70s Japanese Spider-Man TV show a part of it. And even doing the thing he does. I never watched the show, but I've seen clips of it as a kid, and it's like, you know, it's like not my ideal Spider-Man, but I respect it. You know, to get Japanese Spider-Man, it's like, it's awesome. But of course, the Libertron doesn't make it, you know, fighting Solas, but at least allow them time to escape. So they get word from Cindy Moon to come to this nuclear Holocaust universe, where they meet up with this universe's Uncle Ben, and he tells them the story about what happened to the world. Now he's sulking a bit while Peter's trying to give him a pet talk. Is ultimately, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Once Jessica Drew ports in the 2 scrolls, so these guys can know what's going on, what they're planning, and trying to find a counter plan to their plan. This is where Peter make a big faux pas, where, you know, Doc Ock communicates on his wrist communicator to the virtual Anna Marie, and Peter's like, "You mean a virtual Anna Marie?" And it's like, and then Doc Ock's like, it's like, "Of course I would. Why wouldn't I?" And he thinks to himself, "Wait a minute, hold on. How he knows anything about Anna Marie? Only way you're the future me." And it's like, he knows. So, of course, Doc Ock's biding his time because he, like, first things first, he got to deal with these inheritors because he realized that he's better than to have an army to fight back against these guys, and he deals with Peter after. So they come to realize about the Scion, the bride, and the other. Now, of course, they come to realize, okay, they got the Scion and the other. Okay, we got Cindy Moon with us. Now realizing Cindy Moon ditched them after they realize, after she feels like she's like, not wanted or anything like that. So her and Spider-Man stupidly go off on their own and end up getting, Cindy getting captured while Jessica and Spider-Gwen are fighting off Namor and the pirates. So now they gotta form up like a strategy, and of course they need Uncle Ben to come into the fray since he has spider powers. So we need your help. And he's like, "No, I can't. I failed my universe, and I will probably fail you." And of course, as Peter's trying to give him a pep talk, the same way he always give his Uncle Ben always try to give him, it's not sinking in. But it was Doc Ock who gives Ben the pep talk. It's like, how many times I failed, but it doesn't matter. It's about getting back up, get it back up, old man. You need to get back on that horse and say no. And you say no to the universe. You get back in his face and you fight. That kind of stuff. And it's like, Peter just like could not believe like Doc Ock got his uncle out of his funk where he couldn't. And of course, Morlun usurps the leadership of his father Solas because Solas gets killed by a mutated Karn. But he ends up getting seemingly killed by Morlun in retaliation and brought in. So now the inheritors got all three of the spider main, like the primary spider tones they need to complete the ritual. So Morlun starts off with drawing the blood of Karn and Cindy Moon and let it drip on the web as the Master Weaver weaves this particular the particular variants tied to these kind of spider people. Like one's created by science, the other created by luck, and starting to erase them out of existence. And he's about to go towards Benji until the spider people come in and stop the ritual from being complete. And since Morlun didn't complete the deed, slowly but surely the webs become tied back together. None of it happened. It has to be complete in order to make it work. So now they got all these different spider people and Karn on their side. So now it's all out war. All these different Spider-Man from all these different walks of life, from these different multiverses with their own particular skill set, all come in and starts beating these inheritors' asses. It's so awesome to see all these different Spider-Man coming together. You thought Spider-Man No Way Home was dope. Wait till I bet you they'll have something like this in. Of course, they'll have something like this in Across the Spider-Verse, but they gotta have the inheritors involved, and you gotta see all these different Spider-Man, army of variant Spider-Man come together in their own Avengers Endgame kind of assemble mode to take on these vampires, because it's like life and death at this point. And of course, Morlun tried to like snatch the knife, and it's like, okay, I'm completing this ritual. Enough of you spider people, and you all be erased from existence. And he tried to go after Benji, not realizing that Uncle Ben pulled a switcheroo on him and took Benji to Mayday Parker's universe, while he replaced the baby with a naked Spider-Ham. And it's like, it was so hilarious, the look on, the dumbfounded look on Morlun's face. And so now, you know, they're sunk. And here comes the Leopardon, powered by radiation, really sending some devastation attacks towards these inheritors, because they're weak against radiation. So they eventually getting the upper hand, until Doc Ock Spider-Man slit the throat of the Master Weaver, stating that, well, it seems to me that the ritual really needs the Master Weaver as the key to make that legit. So without him, all these little Scions, Other, and Bright are meaningless. They might as well be giant paperweights to you. So Morlun is just shocked, like, you monster, you're ruining the fabric of reality itself. Then all of a sudden Mayday has a big epiphany after being all gung-ho about going after Deimos for killing her father and everything like that, and she's like you know, like oh my god, like, I was gonna, because they have this crystal with the essence of their father, they can easily, eventually, hopefully, reincarnate their father. And she literally holding the palm of her hand. It's like, oh, what's the matter? You don't like it when somebody has the life of your father in the palm of their hand like that? Oh, and then she starts using her strength and start cracking it. And but she come to realize, like, oh my god, like, this is not justice, this is vengeance. And this is not what my father want. Which people have been telling you for the longest. Like, the most unlikable people in this event is Cindy Moon and Mayday, to a certain extent. Not unforgivable where they ruin the entire story, but it's just like they make stupid decisions. You're constantly running. Now, of course, it's kind of like a purpose for Cindy to run, where she happens upon the barren wasteland of the world that is the key in order to lock the inheritors up, because that's where they toss the inheritors to. Even though they're weak against radiation, we'll get to that, but it's like, you know, Mayday, it's like, you know, you're like bloodthirsty and you want revenge, and it's like people been telling you, it's like, hey, it's not the way, it's not what we do. But she wasn't trying to listen. Now she got all this epiphany, and it's like, it seems like a very forced way to like wrap up her little arc. But now, like, you know, Morlun's had it. It's like, I was gonna save you for last, Peter Parker, but I'm going after you now. It's like, it's over. I'm gonna take you out. And it's like, you know, fine, I'm ready when you are, Morlun. And it's like these two, yeah, is having like a rematch. And like, of course, you know, Morlun's trying to absorb Peter's soul, but he activates his portal wristwatch and transports to the barren wasteland, and it's like poison immediately. And you know, he opens the portal and he says, you know, well, Cindy Moon opens the portal and yanks Peter out of that world, leaving Morlun there. And they start, once all the other people are neutralized, they start dumping the inheritors through that portal, and Peter tells them, like, no, we're not gonna leave you to die. No, if you follow the arrows, they'll lead you to this bunker where you can live out the rest of your life there. If you want to live, you stay in there. And of course, you see later that there's tons of like irradiated spiders that survive this nuclear like holocaust. and that's where they have something to feast on so they can survive, so they won't starve to death. But that's where they'll stay. And of course, the third Spider-Verse event, like I said, it was crap. All but Morlun, and of course, Karn too, are murdered by this wasp totem lady thing. So all the inheritors but Karn and Morlun survive after that event. So after that event, they're the only two inheritors left in the multiverse. Anyway, at least as far as we know. Anyway, as far as everybody's concerned, that's the end of the inheritors threat. But since the Master Weaver turned out to be a future Karn himself, an older one, they come to realize they need a Master Weaver. Once locked in place, according to Ana Corazon, who's able to, because her ties to like a mystical way of gathering her spider powers, she's able to read like the prophecy scrolls and like the dagger, that the sacrificial dagger, to realize like, hey, there has to always be a Master Weaver. Once you're in there, you're stuck there until somebody kills you and they have to take your place. So and somebody takes the place. And Cindy Moon thinks like, well, I need a purpose, and this may be my purpose. But Karn realized, no, it has to be me. It's some kind of weird paradox thing. If it's a future him, that means past him has to be the one that be a part of this. So he becomes the new-ish Master Weaver and starts sending people home again. And this is how like Spider-Man 2099 gets back to his present day of the future. Now, almost everybody is back to their world except for the 616 characters and Ana Corazon and Spider-Man UK. Because Superior Spider-Man, starts cutting at the strings of the web, because he doesn't want to, end up being erased, because he realized that Peter is the future, not the past him. Before we get into that, we see like the final wrap up of Mayday Parker, where this Ben Parker decides to live in this universe, being a grandfather to Benji and Mayday. And since Peter is gone, she officially took up the mantle of Spider-Woman, and even gives Mary Jane even gives her Peter's old clothes, old uniform. So, while unfortunately Spider-Gwen and 2099 Peter Parker, Miguel O'Hara couldn't stay to help out with the others dealing with Doc Ock Spider-Man, because they have to go in case you get lost forever, because wow, this guy's cutting at these strings. So they end up stopping Doc Ock eventually, and they end up sending him through the portal back into the main timeline where we left off from Superior Spider-Man arc, where he ends up forgetting, because after the Master Weaver said, once you get through this thing, you will not remember anything, Doc Ock. So that's what happens. He doesn't remember as soon as he gets back to the present day, thinking that, because I guess apparently what these scientists did in former Horizon Labs didn't amount to nothing. You think it did. Like, it's hard to tell. It's like, okay, did the Master Weaver do it or these scientists do it? Maybe it's a combination of both. But now Doc Ock can't remember what the events that transpired. For all he knows, he went to the future for a brief moment and he came right back. So now Spider UK comes to learn that the incursion still went on, and his universe, where like the Captain Britain Corps was from, is eradicated. There's nothing. There's a blank space. That universe is gone. So he's the last Captain Britain, seemingly, the last Captain Britain, at least of the moment of this event was created. He was the last one. So now him and Anna become like the founders of the Web Warriors, where they travel like the multiverse to make sure everything is going right and nobody's like, it's kind of like their mini kind of TVA kind of situation. It's that, but they're not pruning nobody from existence. But all the 616 characters, Anna, Cindy, and Peter, go back to their own universe. And Peter's so glad to be back. He's got a company to run, but he still want to be like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Also, Karn might still, be alive, even despite the mutation. He's, molted, I guess, back to his former self. So he'd probably be along with Spider UK and Anna. Nobody really cares for Karn like that. They slightly care a lot for Ben Riley as the clone of Peter Parker, but no love for Karn. But this is the end of Spider-Verse. It was a long one, but it was so much fun. One of my favorite events. It's it's almost like a love letter to Spider-Man comic book format, where you just see all these various Spider people, stuff that you probably read from different comic books or watched from TV shows, or not the movies, but you might as well have had, at least at that time, come together to deal with these interdimensional vampires that's coming at them like the Terminator to eradicate them from the multiverse. But yeah, that's it. Eventually I will cover like Original Sin at some point in the future, and of course the Incursion kind of event, but that's gonna be a while. But in a couple of weeks I will be eventually getting into, a couple of weeks, but I will be eventually starting the X-Men related reviews, comic book, TV show, movies, all that stuff. And I'm going to be doing like single story stuff for a lot of characters in order to before the team up stuff. So because I think not many people really took the time to actually give like each of these characters, aside from maybe like Wolverine, or maybe like Magneto or Sabretooth or something like that. I want to start off with Cyclops. I want to give like a Cyclops story, the Jean Grey, Jubilee, Wolverine, even Sabretooth and Magneto, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, like so on and so on, even Colossus and Beast, so on and so on, until eventually I'll go right into them as a team and go through each like different various X-Men related events, like Onslaught. There's a lot of 90s stuff I'm going to be covering, which I love that era of comics personally. But like until eventually it all wraps up with, honestly, my God, it's hard. It's like my two top favorite, Marvel, not Marvel, but just comic book events in general is DC's Metal, the first one, and Marvel's Hox and Pox, House of X and Powers of X, the current status quo of the X-Men, at least as of right now. It's supposed to be some Fall of X storyline where all that Krakoa stuff and what the X-Men kind of built up that I love, apparently it's gonna be coming down. And it's like, God, it's like, why can't it just be the status quo? And it's like, don't bring it back with the same old tired, yeah, sure, you still have the mutant hating people, but it's like, I don't want like all that stuff that we had throughout like since the 60s up until a few years ago when the Hox and Pox was created. All that stuff was like old hat stuff. And it's like you gotta like, you know, yeah, we shouldn't be playing the same beats that we've been seeing since the 80s and 90s, honestly. But we'll get to that. But we're gonna wrap up with Hawks and Pucks before we get to like just mixing up with certain comics, because I will get into like some DC stuff right after that. But anyway, let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, what you think of all the Spider-Man different various comics and the Spider-Verse event. Which variant of Spider-Man is your favorite aside from 616 Peter Parker? Because I love Miguel O'Hara 2099 Spider-Man. I think he's my top favorite personally. But anyway, I will see you guys. We'll see what we're gonna do tomorrow, because I gotta watch that Renfield movie. I do want to do a spoiler review on the first two Ant-Man films, but we'll see how much time I get into that. We'll see, because I might have to move those two to maybe Friday and do the Renfield movie spoiler review right after I get back from the theater tomorrow. That's probably have to be the plan. But anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. Be well, be safe. Peace.